The major developments in the rural road sector, and especially for the development of rural access, is definitely the increase of population that we can see everywhere. This has not been considered so much anymore in the recent decades, although it was a long time ago, it was one of the main issues. We haven't really heard about it so much in recent years, but it's definitely one of the main factors that will influence the development of the rural infrastructure sector at large. And the demands of the population in the rural areas is definitely increasing for better services. There is also an increasing number of people that are moving into a middle class, and therefore that creates also more demands.
Major developments, I think urbanization is already influencing rural transport. This is what I'm seeing, because the sub-Saharan Africa is urbanizing at a rate of 4.5, I think. That is a big growth. If we don't put it that right, then we have more urbanization and we have more marginalization of rural areas.
When I think about the future, let me just first of all talk about the engineering side. There's great pressure in most countries to start paving, that's bituminizing rural roads. This is coming about in a bit of a haphazard way.
Under the AFCAP and RECAP and earlier the CCAP programs, we have been developing low-cost sealed roads. These have proved to be very successful in many ways. And I think we will see a longer-term trend of using sealed roads rather than bituminous carpet, asphalt concrete. If we can get contractors who are experienced to use it. I remember in Ethiopia, a number of contractors said they didn't understand how you could properly do sealed roads, but they understood very easily how you could do bituminous carpets.
Major developments going forward, I would anticipate that the whole intersection between mobile communication and motor transport and travel, logistics, all of that is really going to develop.
We're seeing an increasing amount of activity around how mobile technology can be used and its impact on the urban transport system, and how we can organise the transport system with the technology that's available. I think the challenge over the coming years is what that might look like for rural transport. And I think it will also have the opportunity for a significant impact on gender equality, because we see that men and women have different transport needs, have different daily activity needs.
For the next generation, what I would humbly whisper in their ear is, do your homework, but keep the big picture in mind. There's lots of complicated elements to rural roads provision, whether they're technical or institutional or economics or policy or technology or whatever. And we need to come up with the most appropriate solutions in each of those elements. But if we lose sight of the big picture, which is to achieve universal rural access within a sensible time frame, then we'll get nowhere. I think that is a little bit of our past, that we did get lost in technical studies that may not have been sufficiently linked to actual investment activities of countries, and those activities very often didn't have in mind a clear outcome, what you would have achieved when you had completed providing rural access. So those things are important. The economic dimension of rural roads continues to be important when you're looking at overall programs and individual selection of roads. There is a temptation for people to say, look, it's just a rural road, it's not so expensive as highways. Why don't we just put a rural road in there, even if we can't find much traffic or reasons? And the answer to that, I suppose, is two words: stranded assets. That if it doesn't make sense economically, this will be a baby white elephant. the lessons from the past are that there's no guaranteed success that you build a road and everything else will follow. You need to examine the local economy, you need to look at the traffic patterns and have some confidence that it's likely to offer some form of return. I think that that is most important for the more expensive rural roads, the high volume rural roads, and some lower volume rural roads. For motorcycle trails, and particularly for basic access, that may be difficult to do, and it's a much cheaper investment.
With regards to the sustainability and the dangers, the risks to rural access, there are a number of factors, and they all interact together. So we have perhaps inappropriate design, inappropriate construction, poor maintenance, climate impact, axle overloading, added to which there is occasionally other things that come into it.
The crux for sustainable rural road infrastructure, in my view, would be recognition of the fact that 2/3 of the world population currently has no access to rural roads. And that affects their livelihoods in every single way. That constrains them from developing in a normal way. So there must be a strong drive to improve that situation. And that can only be done by improving and extending the provision of basic access in rural areas, where, incidentally, more than 3/4 of populations tend to live in developing countries.
The only SDG indicator relating to the transport at the moment is the rural access indicator, which is the number of people that are within 2 kilometres of an all-season road, which is a good indicator because it's been there, people understand what it means, it is a reliable one, and it's based on road provision. It's slightly being eroded because of the fact that now with motorcycles you can be 2 kilometres from a road, but you can be on a road. But that doesn't stop the importance of having a good road network. All the evidence points you need a good road network, so that is good.
We want to know what transport is contributing in terms of facts and figures. Maybe we need focused research. And I think the measuring of impact of transport is an area that we need to go on doing research.
So the challenge here is knowledge is one thing, capturing a knowledge which are of interest to one country or many other countries, that is an important factor, that somebody needs to take a lead in gathering all the knowledge gained from different countries, all the research work and the trial being done here and there, and then to save time. Because you cannot do servicing trial in Vietnam and repeat it in other countries. You may use Vietnam K as a base, and then you may customize the research to save time, to save cost, so that the road being built in Africa or Central Europe will be more climate resilient. So I must say that from knowledge to the practical application and investment, there's some gap.
The Sustainable Mobility for All, which is under United Nations, which is trying to see how rural accessibility could improve as part of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, they have come up with the draft actions to be adopted by countries in order to ensure rural accessibility. So at the end of the year's period, we will expect that our countries will be able now to report back what actions they've been able to implement and what are the challenges and how they intend to take care of the challenges in order to improve rural accessibility.